I still remember the way she looked at me that morning, mascara smudged, hands trembling, voice barely above a whisper. "Mom," she said, "you have to believe me. Ethan didn't do anything." At that moment, I wanted to believe her. God, I needed to. But something in her eyes told me otherwise, a flicker of fear that didn't belong to an innocent person. If I'd known what she was hiding, I would have stopped everything right there. But instead, I took a deep breath, made her some coffee, and told myself she was just scared. After all, every mother wants to believe her daughter. It started a few weeks earlier, on one of those quiet suburban afternoons that feel too peaceful to be real. I was in the kitchen scrolling through emails when I saw her car pull up, too fast, tires screeching slightly. She slammed the door and stormed inside, eyes red from crying. "What happened?" I asked, following her into the living room. "Nothing," she snapped, dropping her purse onto the couch. "Then why are you crying?" She hesitated. "Ethan's having a rough time, okay. The police showed up at his place. They think he stole something from his job." That's when the first red flag hit me. Ethan, her boyfriend of 8 months, was charming, polite when he came over, but always had this edge about him. Something behind his smile didn't sit right. "He didn't do it," she said again, too quickly. "They're just trying to ruin his life." I tried to keep my tone calm. "Sweetheart, if the police are involved, it's serious. Maybe it's better if he gets a lawyer." She glared at me, tears pooling. "You don't know him like I do." And maybe I didn't. But I knew my daughter, and I knew when she was lying. A few days passed. Things felt off in the house, the kind of tension you can't name, but can feel in every word, every sigh. She spent more time on her phone, whispering in her room late at night. Once, I walked by and heard her say, "I already told them he was with me that night. They can't prove anything now." My heart froze. What did she just say? I didn't confront her then. I just stood outside her door, listening, pretending I hadn't heard. I wanted to believe it wasn't what it sounded like. But when a mother's gut starts screaming, it's rarely wrong. Then came the knock on our door. 2 officers. Calm, polite, serious. "Mrs. Turner. We're just here to ask a few questions about your daughter, Lily." I invited them in, hands shaking slightly. They explained that Ethan's workplace had been robbed, cash missing, security footage partially corrupted. Ethan was the prime suspect. "But your daughter," one officer said, "told us Ethan was with her at your home the entire evening of the incident." My stomach dropped. "She said you were home too," he continued. "Can you confirm that?" The room spun. I looked at him, at the little notepad in his hand, and felt my world tilt. Because I wasn't home that night. I was working late. And I knew exactly what that meant. My daughter had lied. After they left, I just stood there, staring at the floor, trying to breathe. She'd told the police a story, a false alibi, to protect a boy who might have committed a crime. When she came home that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table, waiting. "Lily," I said softly, "we need to talk." She froze. "About what?" "About Ethan. And the police." Her face went pale. "They came here, didn't they?" I nodded. "They asked me where I was that night." She swallowed hard. "And what did you say?" "I told them the truth," I said quietly. "That I was working late. That you were home alone." Her eyes widened, fear, then anger. "Why would you say that? You just made things worse." "Lily," I whispered, "you lied to the police. That's a crime." She slammed her hands on the table. "I did it because I love him. They are framing him, Mom. He didn't do anything. Her voice cracked. And in that moment, I saw it, the blind, desperate love that makes smart girls do stupid things. That night, I couldn't sleep. I replayed every memory of her and Ethan, every glance, every argument, every secret she brushed off. Had he manipulated her? Or did she choose this path herself? At 2 a.m., I checked her phone while she slept. I know I shouldn't have, but I was terrified. There were messages. From Ethan. Don't say anything else to the cops. If they ask, you were with me the whole time. You promised you'd protect me. My chest tightened. He wasn't just letting her lie, he was making her. And yet, she seemed to believe she was saving him. The next morning, I confronted her again, phone in hand. You think love means lying for someone who's guilty? I asked. She looked at me like I was the enemy. You don't understand him, she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. He's been through so much. He just needed someone on his side. And you decided to ruin your life for him. I'm not ruining my life, she screamed. You just want to control me. Then she stormed out, and for the first time in 18 years, I didn't follow her. I just sat there, shaking, realizing something horrifying. This wasn't just teenage rebellion. This was loyalty to a lie. And deep down, I knew, the truth would come out, one way or another. But I wasn't ready for how devastating it would be when it did. I didn't see her for 2 days after that argument. Her room stayed dark, bed unmade, curtains drawn. Every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was her, but it never was. Then, on the third morning, she walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened. Morning, she said quietly, pouring herself cereal. Her voice was calm, too calm. And that's when I noticed the small bruise on her wrist. Lily, what happened? She looked down at her bowl. Nothing. Just bumped into something. But she wouldn't meet my eyes. Something inside me broke. My little girl, the one who used to curl up next to me during thunderstorms, was hiding bruises and lies for a man who saw her as a shield. That afternoon, I got a call from Officer Harris, the same detective who'd visited before. Mrs. Turner, he said, I thought you should know, Ethan's been brought in for questioning again. We found new evidence. My pulse quickened. What kind of evidence? There were text messages recovered from a friend's phone, he said. Looks like Ethan planned the whole thing, and your daughter's name came up. I gripped the counter. What do you mean, her name? She told him she'd give him an alibi. Said she'd swear he was with her all night. I closed my eyes. The proof was right there now. She wasn't just lying, she was involved. When she came home that evening, I was done playing gentle. Sit down, I said. She looked startled but obeyed. The police called. They have your texts. Her face drained of color. What? They know, Lily. They know you lied for him. Her lips trembled. So what happens now? I don't know, I said. But if you keep covering for him, it's going to destroy you. She leaned forward, voice shaking. You don't get it, Mom. He's all I have. When Dad left, you buried yourself in work, and Ethan, he was there. Her words hit me like a slap. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Because she was right, after the divorce, I'd thrown myself into survival, into paying bills, into holding everything together. And somewhere in the chaos, I'd lost touch with her. But that didn't excuse what she'd done. That night, I called Ethan. He picked up on the third ring, his tone smooth but defensive. Mrs. Turner. Surprised to hear from you. Stay away from my daughter, I said, my voice trembling. He chuckled. She's an adult. You can't control who she loves. Love? I snapped. You used her. You made her lie to the police to cover your crime. His silence was sharp, then he said, you can't prove that. But I didn't need to. I'd heard enough in his tone, that smug calm of someone who thought he'd won. You don't know me, I said. But I promise, I'll protect my daughter. Even from you. And then I hung up. The next morning, she was gone. No note. No text. Just her phone charger missing and her favorite jacket gone from the closet. My heart dropped. I called everyone, her friends, her workplace, even Ethan's number. No one knew where she was. Until, around midnight, there was another knock on the door. Officer Harris again. He looked tired, almost regretful. Mrs. Turner, we found your daughter. My chest tightened. Is she okay? She's fine physically, he said. But we had to bring her in for questioning. She was with Ethan when we made the arrest. I pressed my hand to my mouth. He continued, we caught him trying to leave town. She was in the car with him. She said she didn't know where they were going. Tears burned my eyes. Can I see her? He nodded. Come with me. The police station was cold, sterile, too bright. When they led me into the small interview room, she was sitting there, hoodie pulled up, face pale, hands shaking. The moment she saw me, she burst into tears. Mom, she sobbed. I didn't know what to do. I rushed to her, held her tight, and for a moment she was my little girl again, terrified, lost, and looking for comfort. They said I'd go to jail, she whispered. Ethan told me if I didn't back him up, he'd tell them I helped him. My stomach turned. Helped him with what? She looked up at me, eyes red. He used my car that night, Mom. To get away after the robbery. The words hit like a blow. He'd dragged her into the middle of it, and she'd let him. Later that night, I sat in the waiting area while they finished questioning her. Officer Harris came over quietly. She's scared, but she's telling the truth now, he said. We'll make sure she gets a chance to explain everything. It looks like he manipulated her. I nodded, tears slipping down. She's still a kid. She just wanted to be loved. He sighed. That's often how it starts. When they released her to me, she couldn't even look me in the eyes. We drove home in silence, only the sound of her sniffles filling the car. That night, I stood outside her door, listening to her cry softly. I wanted to go in, to tell her everything would be okay. But I couldn't lie, not anymore. Because deep down, I knew there would be consequences. The truth might save her, but it would also scar her. A week later, the police filed charges against Ethan, theft, obstruction, and witness manipulation. They didn't charge her, but she had to testify. And as the court date approached, I could see the guilt consuming her, every night, quieter, paler, more withdrawn. She barely ate. Barely spoke. Then one evening, she came to me, holding a piece of paper. It was a handwritten statement, her full confession. Mom, she said softly, I want to tell them everything. Even the parts that make me look bad. I looked at her, tears in my eyes. Are you sure? She nodded. I'm tired of lying. I just want to be free again. I reached for her hand. Then tell the truth, Lily. No matter what it costs. The next morning, we drove to the station together. She was silent the whole ride, staring out the window, clutching the confession in her hand. Halfway there, she whispered, I still love him, you know. I didn't answer. Because love, when poisoned by fear and lies, isn't really love anymore, it's a trap. And I prayed that one day, she'd see that too. But what happened next was something neither of us saw coming. The courtroom was quieter than I expected, the kind of silence that hums beneath the surface, thick with tension. Lily sat beside me, her hands folded, knuckles white. She looked older somehow, not in age, but in the way pain matures you faster than time ever could. Ethan sat across the room at the defendant's table, wearing a navy suit that didn't hide the arrogance in his eyes. He glanced at her once. She looked away immediately. And that's when I knew she'd finally seen him for who he really was. When the prosecutor called her to the stand, my heart nearly stopped. Her voice trembled at first as she recounted everything, how she'd believed his stories, how he'd convinced her the police were corrupt, how he'd said they were the only ones who understood each other. Then, when she got to the part about lying to the police, her voice broke. I thought I was helping him, she said softly, but I was just digging myself deeper. The courtroom stayed silent, every word echoing. Ethan's lawyer tried to twist her testimony, made it sound like she was covering herself, like she wanted revenge. But she didn't back down. For the first time in months, I saw strength in her eyes instead of fear. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, pride. Afterward, she broke down in the hallway. He looked at me like I betrayed him, she sobbed. Like I was the one who ruined his life. I wrapped my arms around her. You didn't ruin his life, honey. You saved your own. But even as I said it, I knew healing wouldn't come easy. Love like that, toxic, manipulative, obsessive, leaves a shadow long after it's gone. Weeks passed. Ethan was convicted, 18 months for theft and witness tampering. When the news came through, Lily just sat there in silence, staring at the floor. I don't feel happy, she said finally. I thought I would. I nodded slowly. Justice doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it just feels necessary. We both sat there for a while, quiet. And then she whispered, "Do you hate me for what I did?" I looked at her, my daughter, my stubborn, loving, broken girl, and shook my head. No. I hate what it did to us. But I could never hate you. She burst into tears again, and this time, I let myself cry too. A few months later, she started therapy. She got a part-time job at a coffee shop, started taking night classes again. Bit by bit, I saw the light coming back into her eyes. One evening, we sat on the porch, just the two of us. The sun was setting, the sky painted in oranges and pinks that looked almost too gentle for what we'd lived through. She took a deep breath. I still dream about him sometimes, she said quietly. Not the real him, the version I made up. The one who said he loved me. I nodded. That's the hardest part, letting go of who we thought they were. She smiled faintly. You sound like my therapist. I laughed. Maybe she's been talking to me too. For the first time in a long time, she laughed back. But even healing has its ghosts. A few weeks later, we got a letter. It was from Ethan, written from prison. She froze when she saw his name on the envelope. Do you want to open it? I asked. She stared at it for a long moment, then shook her head. No. I don't need his words anymore. I watched her walk to the fireplace, toss the letter into the flames, and stand there until it was nothing but ashes. The firelight danced across her face, and I realized she wasn't that frightened girl anymore. She was someone new, scarred, yes, but stronger for it. A few months later, on her birthday, she handed me a small box. Inside was a bracelet, silver, engraved with tiny letters that read, "Truth is freedom." It's what you told me, she said softly. That the truth might hurt, but lies kill you slowly. I hugged her, tears in my eyes. She leaned into me and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I swallowed hard. That's what mothers do. We stand guard, even when you hate us for it. Now, a year later, I sometimes replay everything in my mind, the lies, the police visits, the courtroom tears. Not because I want to relive the pain, but because I want to remember how far we've come. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that love isn't blind. Love sees everything, even the ugly parts, and still chooses what's right. And as I watch my daughter rebuild her life, I know the truth didn't break us. It freed us. Sometimes, the people you'd lie for are the same ones who'd never do the same for you. And that's how I learned, truth isn't just honesty. It's courage. If this story hit you hard, tell me in the comments, what would you have done if it was your child? Share this video with someone who's ever been blinded by love. And remember, the truth might hurt, but it also heals.